Almost everyone pictures the Tower of Babel as a Bronze Age skyscraper. Hold on, languages, plural, already divided, already spread out. The tower becomes a psychological weapon. If you rebel against the empire of bricks, you are not just fighting the state, you are fighting the gods. When the text says the tower would have its top in the heavens, it is not describing physical altitude. That phrase was standard ancient architectural marketing. Archaeologists have translated dedication cylinders from later Mesopotamian kings boasting about their temples with almost identical wording. I made its summit rival the heavens. It was ancient propaganda. They were building a religious monopoly, a monument designed to tether the divine realm to their specific geography. But the architecture is only the mechanism. To understand the true danger of Babel, you have to look at the words they speak next. Because right after they announce the tower, the builders admit the driving fear underneath all that mud and tar. Listen to the second half of their architectural blueprint. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. Two motivations, one aggressive, one defensive. First, the aggression. Then you turn to Genesis 11. Let us make a name for ourselves. In English, this sounds like a desire for fame, a craving for historical legacy. But the Hebrew word here is Shem. It carries far more weight than simple popularity. It means reputation, authority, character, and sheer existence. In the biblical imagination, a name is not just a label, it is a destiny. To receive a name from a superior is to accept their authority and your place in their order. The builders at Babel are actively bypassing that order. They are seizing the right of self-definition. If they can build a tower that commands the heavens, if they can forge an unbreakable empire of identical bricks, they no longer need divine blessing. They can manufacture their own identity, a totally secular salvation. But beneath that massive display of imperial ego lies a surprising fragility. Look at the second motivation. Lest we be dispersed, fear, absolute driving panic. God had explicitly commanded them to spread out, to fill the earth, to trust that as they moved into the unknown, He would sustain them. The very first sentence says the whole earth had one language and the same words. But the unknown is terrifying. The edges of the map are dangerous. The Hebrew verb they use for dispersed puts implies a violent shattering, a breaking into pieces. They view God's command to fill the earth not as a blessing of expansion, but as a threat of dissolution. They believe that distance and diversity will destroy them. It is far easier to build a wall than to walk into a wilderness. Babel is not a monument to human courage. It is a monument to human anxiety. The entire imperial project, the kiln-fired bricks, the boiling asphalt, the terraced ziggurat, the enforced single language, is built on a foundation of terror. They are terrified of being vulnerable. They are terrified of losing control. So they grip the dirt of Shinar. They huddle together. They decide that total conformity is safer than divine obedience. The empire demands sameness because sameness feels secure. The text is not confused. It is doing something highly deliberate. If everyone speaks the exact same words, works on the exact same project, and bows at the exact same tower, nothing can threaten the system, or so they think. They have stacked millions of bricks. They have built their artificial mountain. They have engineered a society that cannot be broken. And then, the text delivers one of the most devastatingly ironic sentences in all of biblical literature. Genesis 11 verse 5, "And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of man had built." Sit with the geometry of that sentence for a second. The builders have spent years manufacturing bricks, dragging timber across a barren plain, boiling vats of asphalt. The people on the plain of Shinar were not trying to physically touch heaven. They have erected the tallest, most terrifying structure in the known world. They boasted that its summit would scrape the very floor of heaven. And from God's perspective, it is so laughably small that he has to stoop down just to look at it. It is a masterpiece of ancient literary satire, a towering monument to imperial ego reduced to a microscopic speck on the floodplain. Notice exactly how the text identifies the builders. God comes down to look at the work of the children of man. In Hebrew, Bene Ha-Adam, the sons of Adam, Adam, whose name is inextricably tied to Adama, the dirt. The sons of dirt have piled up a massive mound of baked dirt, glued it together with tar, and declared themselves masters of the cosmos. The tower is not a threat to the throne of God, it is a joke. God was not afraid of their architecture. But God's descent is not just mockery, it is a divine investigation. He comes down to evaluate the system they have built. And when he speaks in verse 6, he diagnoses the true danger of the Shinar project. Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Many people read that verse and assume God is intimidated. They read it as if God is nervously watching human technological progress, worried that this brick staircase might actually breach the gates of heaven. That is a complete misreading of the text. God is not afraid of their architecture. God is looking at what absolute homogenization will do to a fallen humanity. They were building an empire of absolute sameness. Nothing will be impossible for them is not a compliment. It is a warning. In a broken world, an unchecked, unified empire with no restraints, no borders, and one consolidated power structure will inevitably build a machine of infinite oppression. Total unity among fallen humans does not produce utopia. It produces Babylon. It produces a system where the state is God, the individual is a brick, and there is no outside territory where a refugee can flee when the tyrant demands worship. If this unified assimilation machine is allowed to solidify, human flourishing will die on the plain of Shinar. The divine mandate to fill the earth will be permanently crushed under a ziggurat of state control. God does not step in to halt human progress. He steps in to dismantle a totalitarian nightmare. And he does not do it with fire. He does not send an earthquake to shatter the bricks. He attacks the one thing holding the entire imperial project together. He attacks the infrastructure, not the bricks, the words. An engine of control designed to stop the exact future God had commanded. Genesis 11 verse 7. Come, let us go down, and there confuse their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. The empire relied on absolute standardization. One language meant orders moved seamlessly from the top of the ziggurat down to the mud pits. The supply chain of timber, tar, and labor depended entirely on immediate, uniform comprehension. Break the language, and the industrial machine violently stalls. Imagine the chaos on the scaffolding. A foreman shouts an order for mortar, but the laborer hears gibberish. Frustration spikes. Tools are dropped. The fires in the massive kilns burn out. The rhythm of the empire shatters into 1,000 disconnected voices. Without a shared language, the bricks cannot be stacked. The system of control disintegrates. Verse 8 records the result. So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. Notice what just happened. God did not destroy the builders, he scattered them. We are going to walk through the ruins of Babel. He forced the blessing. They were terrified of being dispersed, so they built a fortress of sameness to hold on to power. God shatters that sameness to enforce his original command. The judgment at Babel is actually a severe rescue operation. God shoves humanity out of the suffocating grip of Shinar and forces them back into the wild, diverse, expansive world they were always meant to cultivate. He trades the totalitarian nightmare of a single empire for the vibrant, complicated map of nations we saw in Genesis 10. And then the text buries the pride of the builders under a permanent layer of mockery. Verse 9 gives the final verdict. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. Remember their central motivation. They wanted to make a name for themselves. They called their city Babelu, the grand gate of the gods. But the biblical narrator plays a brutal phonetic joke. In Hebrew, the verb to confuse is balal. The gate of the gods becomes the city of Babel. The monument to their eternal reputation becomes a historical punchline about their inability to communicate. Their attempt at self-exaltation ends in total humiliation. The builders failed to make a name. Humanity is fractured, scattered across the map, speaking disconnected tongues. We are going to lock this tower exactly where it belongs, between the global map of Genesis 10 and the calling of one man in Genesis 12. The grand project of human unity apart from God is lying in half-finished ruins on the dirt. The story seems to end in failure, an uncrossable distance between heaven and earth, until you turn the page to Genesis 12. Genesis 11 ends with humanity fractured. A map of scattered tribes, confused languages, and half-finished brick walls baking in the Mesopotamian sun. The grand unified project is dead. Then you turn the page. Genesis 12 opens. Not with a massive empire, not with a king marshalling a labor force, with one man. An obscure, childless nomad named Abram living in Ur of the Chaldeans. Look at an ancient map. Ur is in southern Mesopotamia. It is the same region, the same dirt, a massive spiral of stone pushing into the clouds. To see what this city was actually attempting. God speaks to this man and gives him a command that directly reverses the entire logic of Shinar. Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. Leave your fortress, leave your kinship network, step away from the walls. Walk into the exact geographical vulnerability the builders of Babel were terrified of. And then God makes a promise. He offers Abram the exact thing the builders of Shinar tried to steal. And I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great. Look at the pronouns. At Babel, the builders shouted, "Let us build, let us make a name." The engine was human effort, the material was mud, the result was a babbling ruin. In Genesis 12, God says, "I will make you a great nation, I will bless you, I will make your name great." Babel was an attempt to seize an identity from the earth up, and what God was actually dismantling. The call of Abraham is an identity received from heaven down. God achieves through a single, trusting individual what an entire empire failed to manufacture through force. The story of Babel is not a divine condemnation of architecture. God does not hate cities. He does not hate human progress. He hates Babylon. He opposes any system, any empire, any culture that tries to secure its own salvation by flattening human beings into identical, interchangeable bricks. The real danger of the tower was never its physical altitude, it was its ambition. The desperate, anxious attempt to manufacture an unbreakable identity apart from the command of God. We still build these towers. We build them in our institutions, our politics, our economies. We demand conformity. We try to manufacture an unbreakable name for ourselves. terrified that if we lose control of the system, we will be scattered and forgotten. But the God who dismantled the assimilation machine of Shinar is the same God who called Abram out of that very same dirt. To understand what is happening in chapter 11, you have to rewind to the moment the floodwaters recede. Genesis 9. He does not ask you to build a tower to secure your worth. He asks you to step out into the wild, diverse, complicated world he made and trust that he is the one who gives you your name. If this recontextualization changes the way you read Genesis, the biggest thing you can do is subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video with someone who needs it. That is genuinely how people find this content, and we depend on you to spread the word. Please keep us in your prayers. God bless you. God gives humanity a restart. He repeats the exact mandate he gave to Adam and Eve in the garden. Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Fill the earth. That is the baseline command for human civilization. Spread out, cultivate, expand the borders of human flourishing across the globe. It is a command toward diversity, exploration, and movement. But as humanity multiplies, something shifts. The text tracks their movement with a subtle geographical detail that always signals trouble in Genesis. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. Moving east in Genesis is almost always a movement away from the presence of God. Adam and Eve are exiled east of Eden. Cain wanders east. Lot pitches his tents eastward towards Sodom. And notice the verb, settled. They stopped. Humanity building a staircase to heaven. Look where they stopped. Shinar is not just a random dot on an ancient map. In biblical geography, the land of Shinar is Babylon. It is the vast, flat floodplain of southern Mesopotamia. If you stand on that plain today, there is no natural stone. There are no mountains to block the wind, just an unending horizon of dirt, river water, and heat. It is a place where human beings are physically exposed. In the ancient Near East, when a population migrated into a vast open basin, they had two choices: obey the divine mandate to spread out and risk vulnerability, or pull together, central power, and build walls. They chose the walls. The command to fill the earth was abandoned for the safety of a single concentrated location. They traded the divine mandate of expansion for the human project of consolidation. This is where the timeline paradox of Genesis 10 and 11 resolves. Genesis 10 is the macro view of human history. It shows what eventually happened, humanity spreading into distinct nations and tongues across the Mediterranean and the ancient Near East. And God, supposedly threatened by human engineering, knocks it down. But Genesis 11 rewinds the tape. It zooms in on a specific crisis point before that spread was complete. Or, as many scholars argue, it describes a specific empire trying to violently reverse that spread. An empire trying to suck everyone back into one system, one culture, one vocabulary. When Genesis 11 says, the whole earth had one language, it is not necessarily claiming that only one dialect existed on the entire planet. In the ancient world, one language often meant an imperial language, a lingua franca, a state-mandated tongue used for trade, law, and control. They were not just gathering people, they were building an assimilation machine, a project designed to enforce sameness across an entire population. And to build it, they needed a new kind of technology. The land of Shinar had a problem: no stone. If you want to build a fortress in the mountains, you quarry rock, you carve what the earth gives you, and scrambles their languages so they can never build anything that tall again. But in the flat, alluvial mud plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, there is nothing to carve. so they invented something else. Genesis 11 verse 3 captures the exact moment human engineering shifts. Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Do not read past the materials. In the ancient Near East, this is a massive technological leap. Stone is natural. You find it. You shape it. A mason has to look at a raw stone, study its natural faults and unique edges, and figure out exactly where it fits in the wall. But a brick is manufactured. It requires gathering mud, mixing it with straw, and pressing it into standardized wooden molds. And notice the text explicitly says they burned them thoroughly. But if you read Genesis carefully, the timeline breaks. Sun-dried mud bricks were common for everyday ancient houses, but they dissolved in heavy rain. Kiln-fired bricks were different. They were permanent, but firing them required staggering resources. To bake millions of bricks requires massive kilns. It requires complex supply chains to drag wood into a largely treeless plain. It requires thousands of laborers organized around a single, exhausting industrial output. Then came the mortar, bitumen, naturally occurring asphalt bubbling up from the Mesopotamian dirt, used as a waterproof glue. The smell of boiling tar and wood smoke would have choked the air over the plain for miles. This is the birth of industrial architecture, and it reveals exactly what kind of society is being built. Just turn back one page. Genesis 10 records the Table of Nations. A stone is unique. A brick is completely uniform. A brick has no individual identity. It is entirely interchangeable. It exists only to be stacked exactly like the 10,000 other bricks beside it. The technology of the tower perfectly mirrors the culture of the city. The people of Babel are creating an empire of bricks, a civilization where human beings are standardized. One language, one location, one massive industrial effort. Anyone who steps out of line, anyone who acts like a jagged stone, ruins the structural integrity of the wall. This is the dark side of their technological triumph. They were not just mastering the dirt, they were mastering each other. They were building an assimilation machine where humanity was flattened into identical units of labor to serve the state. With the materials secured, the labor force centralized, and the kilns burning, they were ready. It was time to build the centerpiece of their empire. It tracks Noah's descendants, spreading across the ancient world. Verse 4 gives the blueprint. Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens. For centuries, European painters depicted this as a spiraling Roman-style Colosseum pushing into the clouds. A siege tower against the sky. The assumption is usually that humanity was trying to physically climb into God's domain. But this is ancient Mesopotamia. We know exactly what they were building. It was a ziggurat. A ziggurat was a massive, stepped pyramid constructed from millions of baked bricks. It was the architectural anchor of every major ancient Near Eastern city. If you were standing on the flat dirt of the Shinar basin, a completed ziggurat would look like a man-made mountain. Its terraced levels would rise hundreds of feet, casting a heavy, sharp shadow across the floodplain. Broad staircases climbed the exterior, tier by tier, leading to a small enclosed shrine at the absolute summit. And verse 5 explicitly says they were separated by their lands, their nations, and their languages. And here is the missing historical context that changes how you read the scene. Those stairs were not designed for humans to go up. They were designed for the gods to come down. In ancient Babylonian religion, the shrine at the top of a ziggurat was essentially a landing pad. It was a divine waiting room. Priests would furnish it with a bed, a table, and elaborate meals of roasted meat. The scent of heavy incense would drift down the steps. The logic was strictly transactional. If we build you a luxurious house, and if we feed you, You are obligated to descend, take up residence in our city, and guarantee our agricultural and military success. The name Babylon itself, from the Akkadian Babalu, literally means gate of the gods. A ziggurat was not an invasion of heaven, it was an attempt to domesticate the divine. They wanted to harness spiritual power to legitimize political control. Think about how that functions for the people at the bottom of the pyramid. When an ancient king constructs a ziggurat, he is making a terrifying geopolitical claim. He is declaring that heaven endorses his reign, his laws, and his borders.